in Conservation, a podcast of the Wildlife Trust for Beds, Cambs and Northants. My name is Sophie Baker. I'm the editor of our members magazine, Local Wildlife, and your host as we explore the work and the people of your local wildlife trust. Our latest episode is all about chalk streams, those glistening, magical rivers that wend their way through our countryside and that are under increasing threat from the pressures of water abstraction, pollution, and general degradation. I went along to a riverfly workshop, more about what that means later, to chat to Ruth Hawksley, who works in our wider countryside team, on the complex issue of river restoration and protection in Cambridgeshire. This county is one of the driest in the country and faces many challenges when it comes to increasing development and a growing population, all of whom need access to clean water. And this is having profound effects on our chalk streams, a rare and beautiful habitat that really needs our care and protection. Keep listening to find out what it is about chalk streams that makes them so special. Meet some of the local people going over and above to help monitor and improve these rivers, and what you can do to help look after these truly special places. We're here today alongside the River Cam. Is the River Cam? Yes. I did look it up on a map before, but I wasn't entirely sure. And yes, there's a bunch of people standing around some tables, looking keenly and intently in white trays. They're holding plastic spoons and basters. What are they doing?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the turkey basters. What they are doing is sorting out invertebrates from a riverfly sample. So this is a training course for people that want to do riverfly sampling near their own river.
Aha, fantastic. And what is riverfly sampling?
It is a scheme whereby you go monthly to your site, which is a fixed site near somewhere convenient for you. You do a kick sample to see what invertebrates are there, and then you do a count, which means you have to identify invertebrates that you've got to say how many of them there are, and that gives you a score. And then once you've got a year's worth of data, because we work with the Environment Agency, they'll give you a trigger level, which is sort of if your score falls below that level, we know there's definitely a problem with the river. So you establish what's normal for your site. And then that gives you this level. When you fall below it, you sort of got evidence that there's a problem because you've done the training course, your data is valuable, it's proper data, and the Environment Agency will believe it and come out and have a look.
I see. So are they looking just for riverflies then? What is a riverfly? Sorry to be really, it's like a very obvious question.
There are lots of species of riverfly that anglers know, which are the things that they live mostly underwater and then they hatch and they fly and they become food for things like brown trout.
So is a mayfly a riverfly?
A mayfly is a riverfly.
Okay.
But this riverfly scheme is a national scheme, so they've chosen 8 groups of invertebrates which are found throughout the country, which are supposedly quite indicative of good river quality and can be found almost everywhere.
I see.
So that's what we're looking for today.
Right, yeah.
Some of them are not riverflies. Some of them, like freshwater shrimp, are never going to emerge from the river, but most of them will hatch and fly at some point in their life cycle.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so these are a group of volunteers, is that right?
Yeah, so mostly they are from local river groups. And the river group will be doing all kinds of monitoring in their areas. They might be doing chemical water testing, they might be doing riverfly, they might be trying to make the river better in other ways, they might be doing local events. So we are supporting them by supporting the riverfly scheme.
I see, yeah. So the Wildlife Trust is providing, the training.
We're also, I'm the local coordinator for riverfly, which means that I organise the training, but also I verify the records and sort of answer questions and try and support the volunteers when they get set up.
Fantastic.
I see. Okay.
My name is Ruth Hawksley. I'm Wildlife Officer and I'm based in Cambridgeshire.
So this is the River Cam. We are near Duxford, which explains the aeroplane noises that people might hear,
Yes.
And the train noises that people might hear in the background. But this is very much a river that's really, this point of the river is right by a road, isn't it? So it's very much in a community, it feels like.
It is. It's a good place for the training because it's easy to access. This is Duxford Parish Council land. They're happy for us to come here, which is nice. And it's also a nice bit of the Cam.
Yes, and
So the section of the Cam is one of the better areas for riverfly in the catchment.
I see. And so in the riverfly monitoring, is it a particular sort of river that is being monitored, or is it kind of any river?
It has to it has to support the riverfly species, which generally means it has to have areas that are shallow enough to get in and do a kick sample with gravel bed and it's flowing water.
Yes.
And if you don't have those things, you probably won't have the right kind of invertebrates to do riverfly.
Okay. So are they a lot of them in chalk streams? Are they? Yeah.
More in chalk streams.
Yeah. And the Cam isn't it? Is it? Is that right?
Well,
to
the
say?
upper Cam, I think you could say the upper Cam is the chalk stream.
Okay.
As you move further downstream, you sort of get onto the clay and it becomes gradually less chalky.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I'd never really considered, as someone who's not an expert on rivers, that they can change along that. I mean, of course they can. Now I've said it out loud, it feels like a really silly thing to not know. But like, obviously, you just sort of think of a river as a fixed thing, but obviously it isn't a fixed thing.
Geography is variable, so
of course.
Vary.
Yeah. But chalk streams obviously a big part of what you do. Is that fair to say, in terms of like looking at them and after them?
And a lot of the river flow sites are on chalk streams.
Yeah. And what is it that makes chalk stream? Because I feel like they're in the news quite a lot. Like, people talk about chalk streams. Obviously, there's the new bill that Pippa Haling's MP has proposed to make them, is it UNESCO World Heritage Site recently? So that's kind of, people talk about chalk streams a lot. But what actually is a chalk stream?
Well, it relies on having the chalk geology, and that chalk rock holds water, so water can sort of percolate into it. And then when you get a boundary between less permeable rock, which might also be chalk, but then you get a line of springs. So it's sort of like a big sponge holding water, think of it that way. And then as the water goes through the chalk and comes out into the springs, it becomes filtered, because it's essentially going through a big filter, and it tends to have a very constant temperature and continuous flow, because you've sort of buffered the rise and fall of the river due to rainfall, because it's gone through this chalk. It should be more steady. And you get really clear water. And it's often the more sort of species rich, the more rich rivers that we have.
Yes.
There's just some things that's there that don't necessarily turn up in other places.
I see. And that is because of the constant temperature and the clarity and that kind of thing. Is that right? Yeah. And the minerals. Is that why we have very kind of like hard water in this area?
Because of the chalk. Yeah.
I see. Because it's got filtering through the rock, but also picking up.
It does pick up things like the calcium. Yeah.
I see. Yeah. So that's why all my taps go crusty.
Yeah.
But that does suggest, obviously, because they're called aquifers, is that right? But that's where a lot of the water company around here, that's where our water comes from, isn't it? The
whole of our area, Cambridge water supply area is massive. So it doesn't just include Cambridge, it goes all the way up to Ramsey.
Oh, wow.
It's really big. And all of that water comes from the aquifer, which is under our feet here.
Wow. And that is amazing to think about, isn't it?
It's amazing. It's a lot of water, though, to take out of the ground.
Yes, I bet. Yeah. And so what does that mean for the chalk streams?
They've got less water.
Yeah.
It's like, you could think of it like a reservoir, but if you have water, you empty it, you have to let it fill up again. And because people act as though the aquifer is bottomless, they don't think about how it's going to recharge fully every year. We don't have an annual cycle of managing it, we just drink it.
I see, yeah, because it's not visible. So I guess the level...
Can't see it. Yeah. People don't know where the groundwater level is.
No, and I guess it must be measured at some point, but it's kind of measured almost invisibly to most people who are just walking around. You can't just take a walk around and see it.
The Environment Agency has some boreholes, so they have data which they publish, which you can see.
Yeah.
But even so, it's difficult to understand what's happening with groundwater when you can't see it.
Yes, absolutely. And to feel, I mean, I think as well, I visit Grafham Water, for example, because I live kind of fairly near it, and you walk around it and you can be alarmed. You can feel an emotion about how low like last year, the reservoir got really low. And you can tell, and you have an emotional reaction to that, and that kind of motivates you to think about how you can save water and to think, what are we going to do? But I guess that never happens with an aquifer.
It sort of does, because you can get an emotional reaction to the river itself and the fact that there's no water in it. And some of our rivers look really terrible and sad when they don't have enough water, which happens quite often.
Does it?
And you can also see places where the river is really only flowing because we put water in it. We pump water up from the deep aquifer into the beginning of the rivers, and if we didn't have that scheme, a lot of our chalk streams would be dry in the summer.
Really? So we actually take water from the aquifers and pump it into the rivers?
Yeah, we do.
That's mad. I mean, not us, the Wildlife Trust.
It's not us. No, it is completely
culturally.
It is mad.
Yeah.
And you'd think that when you realise that there's a problem, the solution is not the solution is to maybe manage the aquifer a bit better.
Yeah.
But we're now several decades into that skiing,
Yeah.
which means that we've dug ourselves deeper into that hole.
Yeah. Almost literally.
Yes.
Yeah. But that is mad, isn't it? But then if you're pumping water back into the river, then you take away that emotional reaction that people might have. Because if the rivers were drying up every summer, you'd have a much more emotional reaction. Whereas because I wouldn't know that water was getting pumped back into a river. If you just walk past the same spot in a river every day and the water's there, you're not going to know that it's being pumped in or not.
The pumping scheme is working less well now. And so you live by these rivers do notice that actually they're really not looking as good as they should.
Yeah, I feel like awareness, there's a lot, rivers are in the news a lot, aren't they, at the moment? People are talking about it from lots of different points of view.
I think if you live next to a chalk stream and you watch it, you know there's a problem. If you live maybe in Cambridge, it's much less obvious.
Yeah. And, we talk about chalk streams and it is alarming when you live near a river, but what is it that's special about the fact that there are chalk streams? I mean, are they quite a rare habitat in general?
They are quite rare, yeah. And there's not many places where the geology is right for them to occur. So most of them are in the UK, most of them are in England. There are a few in northern France, there are a few elsewhere in Europe.
Yeah.
We've probably got about 80% in England.
Wow.
And that's long stripe of chalk that goes from the sort of Hampshire all the way up to Norfolk. And then there are a few in Lincolnshire as well, and a bit further north.
Yeah, so really concentrated in our area of the world. So it is really important that we look after, because if we're basically looking after, as a society, the chalk streams of the world.
We are. It's like when we criticise people in South America for not looking after the rainforest, but our own version of that is being pretty neglected.
Yeah. And what is it? So we know river flies are obviously a huge part of monitoring, and they obviously thrive in habitats like this. So what else thrives in a chalk stream, and what else could you expect to see in a healthy sort of chalk stream? What would you expect to see?
Ideally, you'd have a good population of fish, like brown trout maybe, lots of invertebrates, lots of plants. So there are a lot of plants which have basically disappeared from our chalk streams. We do have some things like water crowfoot, but not as much as we should have.
Yeah.
There's the water parsnip, there's still some, but not a lot. We used to have many more different plants on the chalk streams to what we've got now.
Yeah, and why are they declining? Is just because of the kind of inconsistency of the water, I suppose?
Yeah, and also I think maybe the water quality, that when you get too much phosphate, it's like on a grassland, you've got too much fertilizer and nutrient, you get the more kind of sluggish plants that grow.
Right.
And the specialists are the ones that suffer. And then you get similar things in the river when the water quality is not great.
Yeah.
It's the specialist ones that are the ones that don't survive so well.
And what is it that sort of affects the water quality of the chalk stream then? Because I guess people aren't kind of deliberately... So on a farm, people are deliberately putting fertiliser on the land to grow a thing, and that might sort of leach out. But I guess it leaches into the rivers as well. I mean, because nobody's deliberately fertilising a river.
They can do. There are lots of things. For example, we've got lots of small treatment works in this area.
Sewage treatment.
Because it's so flat. We can't easily use gravity to move the sewage to a big works that can then have a really good quality system.
Yeah.
We've got lots of small works which tend to have slightly looser limits on what they can discharge.
I see.
They tend to discharge into smaller water courses, which are also short on water, so you get less dilution of that. And it means that the rivers are less able to manage that load that's coming in because they don't have enough groundwater flowing through them.
Yeah, so it's not diluting.
So things like we've changed the shape of the river, so you get more erosion and silt, which does not help the water quality.
Why have we changed the shape of the river? Why is that happening?
A lot of it is historic land drainage. We've been changing shape of the river since before the Romans.
Yeah, of course. I suppose in the fens and around this,
This river used to support quite a lot of mills, so you'd have straightened areas because you would hold back the water so that you'd have a drop at the mill, and then you could use that water power to power the mill. But that usually means straightening or moving the river channel in order to get it a little bit up the floodplain along the contour so that it's got something to drop off.
I see, yeah. So especially in such a flat, like you say, flat landscape, yeah.
And just draining the land because we wanted to farm it.
Yeah.
So we've been, altering rivers for centuries.
Yeah, but I've heard of a thing, you know, because there's a lot that's going wrong here, isn't there, with our rivers, and I think people are much more aware of it. I mean, people will be familiar with sewage discharge. I think that's kind of been much more in the news, hasn't it, especially with TV program that's come out recently, and you know, lots of coverage, and people being, you know, rightly outraged, you know, the fact that they can't swim in rivers or that they're swimming amidst excrement. I mean, some of it's quite visible, isn't it, for some people, which is really foul. But there are things we can do to improve this, aren't there? I mean, we have had very dirty rivers in the past for different, like industrially.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the Tyne, which is where I grew up in, you know, the northeast. The Tyne used to be an awful, like a smelly, you know, horrible, discoloured river. And now, you know, they're
Water
curling
quality
it.
has actually improved a lot
Yeah.
since then.
Yes.
In all the rivers across the country.
Yes, but there aren't very many in excellent condition at the moment, are there? Is that fair to say?
No, there are.
No. So what can we do? I mean, what are the, you know, obviously monitoring schemes like this with all these excellent people helping.
Because a lot of the problems are sort of political ultimately in terms of the way that we manage water on a big scale. Then more people being involved is really good. You know, more people being involved in river fly, but also anything else along to do with the river just means that people are more informed, more able to understand what's going on and complain about it and write to their MP. Or I think if we have, the more understanding we have as a society, the more easy it is for politicians to start to feel the pressure to make changes. You know, that the importance of it rises up the to-do list a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. There's a gust of wind there.
I don't think any invertebrates escaped.
No, I think they're all in the trays, safe.
But it is great that you get schemes like this and so many river groups getting people really invested in their own local river.
Yeah.
To make it better.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this and you live near a river, it's really important to be informed about it and, you know, not to take for granted that there's water in it. You know, see if you can find out whether that's because it's being pumped in and, you know, pay attention to kind of how it looks and I guess how it sort of feels. The health of it, I don't know how that seems quite abstract, doesn't it? But
I'm trying to put more information on the Cam Catchment Partnership website and get more people involved that way and just try and bring together all the many people that are doing great things with rivers.
Yeah, because
one place.
I really get the sense, I mean, I've always lived, before I moved here, I'm not from around here, and before I moved here, I've lived in places, sometimes alongside a river, like the Tyne. I used to live literally in a place that was right alongside the Tyne. But people are much more connected to their rivers here, I think partly because we're further from the coast. I feel like people are drawn to water. And when you live near the coast, the sea kind of captures you, doesn't it? There's a lot of surfers in the northeast, for example, but not a lot of kayakers. Whereas here, like, people seem really connected to their rivers in a way that's...
Yeah, I think it is really important for well-being for a lot of people in this area.
Yeah. And what about you? Why do you specialise in rivers? What is it? Or water in general? What is it?
Question. I find it really, it does attract you, doesn't it? You know, it's very hard to keep out of the river when there's one there. And I'm very lucky that I get to paddle around in rivers a lot in part of my job.
Yeah. And how did you get into this job? I mean, what did you do before? And
luck is how I got into this job.
Yeah, this often is the way, isn't it? Yeah,
it was an opportunity, and lucky for me because I didn't have a great wide ecological background when I got the job. It meant that I could have a focus on rivers and I could just learn about rivers rather than some of my colleagues who have to know about everything. I could focus and I could learn on just that and be able to get somewhere.
Yes, yeah, because there is, you know, there's a
lot to know.
There's a lot to know, yeah. What could we say? There's a lot to know, whatever you specialise in. But yeah, finding a specialism, I guess, helps that.
It really helps.
That journey, yeah.
About focus. And then it's kind of easier to expand. Once you know about one thing, you can then kind of expand your knowledge sideways. But if you're just faced with conservation as a monolith, it's very difficult to get started.
Yeah, really difficult. It is, yeah. And so what else do you do as part of your job then? Obviously, riverfly stuff is part of it, but as Water for Wildlife Officer, what does that actually mean?
Good question. At the moment, I've been helping a lovely volunteer who's redoing the survey of the Bourne Brook, so I'm helping to train up volunteers to do that, which is looking for signs of water voles, otters, Himalayan balsam and giant hogweed, and mapping where they are along the Bourne Brook so we can then compare that to how it was previous surveys, which the first one of those is in 2011. So we've got quite a few years of data. We've been pulling Himalayan balsam on the brook, on the whole brook, and dealing with giant hogweed and hoping that waterfalls will come back as a result of meat control. So we're hoping for big changes on the Bourne Brook. This is a good opportunity to get some evidence. And it's been a nice project. We've worked with the Countryside Regeneration Trust since 2011 on it, and now also Cam Valley Forum. We're working on the lower end, doing balsam there.
Yeah. So I guess a big part of your job really is working across lots of different organisations, because I guess the nature of rivers is that they are a sort of connective
They
thing.
really are. They're amazing things. They're just huge. They link everything together. They link the land to the water and, one place to another. And it is very difficult to unpick one little bit and say, well, I'll just focus on this, because whatever you do there will have impacts elsewhere in the catchment.
Yeah, of course, which is, why flood management is so difficult as well, isn't it? 'Cause
Yeah.
anything you do to stop flooding in one place might put a rush of water or a pooling water in anywhere else along the rivers and things like that.
So another project we're looking at is a potential farm project, just looking at how you manage soils and water on farms and how that impacts on the river. And if a whole farmer cluster would get involved and all do similar measures, then by lots of people doing a small bit, maybe we could have a big impact on the river as a whole.
Yeah, that's exciting. And what's, just for the anybody who's listening, you're talking about Himalayan balsam and giant hogweed, and I guess, are they invasive plants? What are they? Why would you pull Himalayan balsams?
We decided to look at the Bourne Brook because we thought it would be manageable. It turns out it's quite big.
Oh yeah.
But it did have a remnant waterfowl population, so we thought, well, let's just look at the brook as a whole. What are the issues with the Bourne Brook? And it did have mink, which were causing a problem for waterfowls particularly, but also other things like kingfishers, moorhens, all of that. But it also had Himalayan balsam, which it is pretty, but it tends to grow in big stands, which will then exclude native plants. And in winter, it dies back, and you end up with bare banks, which then bond water erosion.
I see.
So that's not great.
Yeah.
Giant hogweed is also a public health hazard, really, because the sap will burn your skin.
Oh yeah, it's that
Cause
amazing.
blisters. They can come back every year for a number of years.
Really?
It's really quite nasty
Gosh,
stuff.
I didn't know that.
And it can also, because it's so big, it can also do that thing of forming a monoculture on a bank and take over. It's got these massive leaves.
Yeah.
So we thought, well, we could just have a project and deal with all this stuff in one go on the Bourne Brook, which in some ways has worked really nicely. And it's given us lots of contacts with all the landowners along the brook, and dealing with multiple issues at the same time has been quite good.
Yeah, because Himalayan balsam does look very pretty, doesn't it? I think there's that habit, because when you squeeze them, they pop, don't they? Is that right? So
Just
children
touch them when they're
really?
ripe. You touch them and they explode.
Yeah, so I think kids and adults, I mean, let's be honest, it's not just kids, is it? Love to touch them and just watch them and sort of explode, but when they're doing that, they're spreading the seed as well.
There are stories of Victorian ladies who spread the seeds to beautify the countryside wherever they travelled.
Oh, yes.
Unfortunate.
That is unfortunate, yeah. So they have taken a bit of a hold on that, and they will be quite a common sight. I mean, I see them quite a lot. I live in St Neots, and
You've got quite a lot there. Yeah.
there's quite a lot, although some of it has been cleared recently, actually, along there, near where I live. But yeah, there is quite a lot on the Great Ooze.
So we're hoping with the Bourne Brook, because we're looking at the whole catchment, essentially, we could actually get rid of it and clear from the top.
Yeah.
Which is sort of working. The top maybe kilometre or two of the Bourne Brook now hasn't had any balsam for the last couple of years.
That's pretty amazing, isn't it, really? Yeah, considering it grows very easily, doesn't it? I mean, it spreads very easily.
And you have to find all of it.
Yeah.
So we started off with the Bourne Brook, and then we kept finding these side channels or ponds or other little bits where it was growing. So even though the main channel we were clearing, we were forgetting other bits
And then
we were gradually finding, and then so then each year there'd be more places to go to pull balsam. So we found another one also.
And I guess it's quite a physical job, because it's quite a big plant, isn't it, once it gets going?
It's got really quite shallow roots though.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's not that hard to pull. It's quite fun.
Yeah.
It's quite satisfying. When we started, because there was so much, we'd get lots of volunteers out doing it, and then they would become our spies on the ground. But did you know there's a whole load over there doing?
But that's it, the value of volunteers. I mean, honestly.
And the value of people knowing their own river. So now some of the community along the Bourne Brook pull their own balsam because they know where it is, and they can then do it whenever it appears. You don't have to wait for one work party, which is better because it's the sort of plant that keeps growing through the summer. So ideally, you get people who live there, keep an eye out for it. If sun comes up, they just pull it.
Yeah.
It works a lot better.
And having the knowledge to do that, because generally speaking, you don't want to people, oh, there's that Chetty's warbler.
I'm Gilly McNaughton and I'm Pond Project Manager at FWAG East, the Farming and Wildlife Advisory Group.
And so you're here learning all about monitoring rivers.
My colleague's involved on the CAM at Littlebury, so I wanted to come along to help learn more about and more eyes on the river really. The more eyes the better. Just learn what species we need to look out for that indicate water quality.
Yeah, so will you then, I guess you'll be taking this knowledge away and actually applying it to the river near you, near where you live, is that?
I'm available to do whichever sections are most needed. But
Right.
I wanted to come here particularly because this is where I spent most of my childhood in this river. So it's familiar to me, and then from what I understand, there are vacancies for volunteers up and down the river, various groups of people just keeping watch on the river flies.
Yeah, and what is it, why do you think it's important to do so? What motivates you to do that?
I think we all know the pressures our rivers are under, and I think the more people who are involved in protecting our freshwaters, the better. It's a huge opportunity to improve our river habitats and the other freshwater habitats across the landscape. Just as I say, the more people that can get involved, the better, really.
And you say you grew up around here, right? Do you feel a real connection to the river? Is that something that kind of...
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's partly why I think I ended up working in freshwater conservation, is because misspent childhood, happy summer days in the river, just getting to know all the creatures in there, just the beauty of the place. It is a chalk stream. They're very rare habitats, which I didn't know when I was little, but... I think we have 90% of chalk streams.
80%, I think Ruth was saying earlier. Yeah.
In this country. So it's a huge biodiversity resource that we really need to start treating better.
Yeah, absolutely. A huge privilege, I think, to be near them and to have them near us. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah. Especially when the water crowfoot's flowing and you've got kingfishers and...
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Absolutely. And what was the best thing you found today? What did you...
Oh, we found all sorts of things. We found... some really lovely pond olives. And
yes, I've been learning about olives. As somebody who knows nothing about river flies, if you say olives to me, it's a very different thing that comes to mind.
Yes.
I have to say.
They're quite easy to identify because they dart about. We found some mayfly larvae, and then we saw a stonefly at the end, which was nice.
Oh, nice.
They're indicators of really good water quality.
Yeah, which is... important and a good thing to know that there are still places that have good water quality. That's what it sounds to me, because there's so much worry, isn't there? I mean, it's really something that people are a lot more aware of, I think, that water quality can be quite bad in our rivers. So
it's good to keep checking it, and we can all pull together and do something about it. That feels good.
Yeah, it does.
My name is Clara Todd. I'm from Water Sensitive Cambridge and various associations around Cambridge that are very interested in water quality.
Yeah.
So it was a really good day.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to learn more about river fly. I've been monitoring for E. coli, and I work with a group that's very interested in road runoff. River fly, I know, is one of those methods that are very good for figuring out impact of pollution. So just really wanted to have another method in my arsenal of knowledge gathering.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've never heard of, what was the organisation? Water Sensitive Cambridge. Is that right? Yeah. So what kind of organisation is that? Is it sort of volunteers, or is it...
It's a community interest company, and we put rainwater into the ground close to where it falls.
Right.
We are doing that for the benefit of the water environment and also making places for nature.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we build rain gardens and we're involved in all kinds of things around Cambridge.
Oh, that's amazing, because it is quite a water poor area, isn't it?
Yes.
Cambridgeshire in general and Cambridge, yeah. So it's really important work, I guess, to gather the rainfall that is there, which I guess would naturally have happened with the fens, but since they've been drained, it doesn't happen so much, does it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So do you have like a personal connection with rivers?
I've lived in Cambridge for a long time. I only really got aware of how important our rivers are, and in particular the River Cam, for me during lockdown. I live near Jesus Green Lock, and there's a stretch of the river that was always familiar, but I really didn't pay much attention to the river. And, there are different ways that you interact with the landscape. And that was an important period of time for me where I was doing a lot more walking and doing a lot more quiet observation. I went on and I did a MA in regenerative economics, and my dissertation was on rights of nature, in particular, and with rivers, and that's what brought me into connection with our local rivers, really.
Yeah. But how amazing that they've inspired you to kind of have a career, a sort of an academic and a career in that side
career.
of things.
My background was web development, and I had 20 years of being in offices, and now this gets me out. And
Yeah, and it's really a beautiful day today. We've been very lucky, haven't we? Standing here in the springtime with blossom raining down upon us as if it's, it's really quite idyllic, isn't it? With Chetty's warblers shouting at us and everything.
And it's a very beautiful stretch of river here too. It's very different from the rather sluggish, slow bit of the River Cam that's near my house. But it's nice to connect in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was the best thing that you found or that you've learnt today in those trays full of wiggly things?
I think when I was doing the video and the pre-training training, I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to distinguish between the different families.
Yeah.
And actually, when you're doing it and there are other people to help you, it was a lot quicker for me to start feeling a bit more confident about the identification of the different families. So that was a delight, but it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. But I think we had good instructions.
Well, yes.
It was a very supportive and very nice day, and it was nice to connect with other people that are also caring and wanting to do more. So that was also a very nice discovery.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there's a community of people, and there are more and more people, I think, who are trying to step up and do something. And hopefully it feels like this kind of thing empowers people to do so. Yeah,
absolutely.
And if somebody was listening to this and was thinking, gosh, I didn't know that about my river, or what would be the first step for them, do you think, in terms of like trying to do something about it? Because a lot of people are very concerned, aren't they?
Well, litter picks is always a gateway into working in and around the rivers. And that's a free and easy thing to do, and you can make a difference. There's usually volunteer groups during the summertime. I lead balsam bashing, and usually there are local groups that are doing balsam pulling, so that's also an easy thing to do to start making a difference. But there are a lot of community groups. Connecting with the local community that are doing things makes you feel less alone, and will also support you in the action that you're doing. If you don't quite know what to do, usually somebody will have an idea of a project that needs to be done. I think that's probably the first step.
Yeah.
after observing and spending time with your river, connect with the people that are also caring locally.
Yeah, fantastic. And would you go back to a desk job, do you think, now that you're here beside the river?
Well, I still spend quite a lot of my time in front of computers.
Well, don't we all? There's not really any avoiding it, is there?
Instead of sort of in service to a corporation, I'm doing it in service to nature and stronger communities and future generations.
Yeah.
Humans and non-human beings. So, which is a lot better than supporting the machinery of capitalism. But that's the context.
Brilliant.
Fantastic array of wiggly things in the tray there, yeah. What an array.
Rivers bring the landscape together, don't they? But they also bring people together. And so are there any projects kind of in the pipeline, sort of partnership projects that
There are
you've got
lots
going
of
on?
partnership projects going on at the moment. Yeah, so not only Riverfly and other things working with local groups and local people, but also we're working with a couple of other partners to write catchment restoration plans for some rivers in the recatchment, because we know there's funding for restoration projects there as part of Cambridge Water's WINEP. So
Right.
we'd like to help them do the right thing.
Yes.
Write
Yeah.
some good plans. It's
Yeah.
what we're working on.
And it's important to work with water companies. I mean, it's easy to kind of demonise water companies, but at the end of the day, they are in control of a huge amount of what goes on in the landscape, aren't they? And so,
They are, and they've been given a duty to do river restoration. So we're working with Wild Trout Trust and South Cambs conservation consultants, working together to try and get these restoration plans as good as they can be. And if water company has got money to spend, we can help them spend it in a good way.
yes, exactly. And that is quite a big part of what the Wildlife Trust does in general, I think, with our work, isn't it? Is to work with people to make things as best as they can be for wildlife. Because if organisations like ours don't provide evidence-based solutions to things, then they can just do whatever they think is the right thing, and it might not be.
That's true. I think between the partners in the Cam catchment, we've got a huge amount of knowledge and a really good understanding of the rivers and how they work and what they need.
Yeah, yeah. And I've just spoken to a couple of the people who are here today, and they themselves were from community organisations, someone from FWAG, which is just fantastic, so people really are coming together to learn and to kind of put into practice real evidence-based stuff. It's good.
This is sort of the advantage of rivers being huge and complicated, as well as the disadvantage, that you have the opportunity to bring lots of people together, lots of organisations together, and sort of build that momentum and excitement.
Yeah. And is that your favourite part of your job then? What's the favourite part of your job, do you think?
That's one of the favourite parts of my job, yeah, is just when you see so many people getting involved with the same thing and really excited about it and wanting to make things better.
Mm-hmm.
It is always a partnership with rivers.
Yes, yeah, and it has to be.
It has to be.
It has to be, doesn't it? Because they go through lots of people's land, apart from anything else. Yeah. It's never just one landowner, is it? Who even owns a riverbank? I don't even know about that.
Well, it's usually the landowner on the.
So it is, yeah.
We'll own to the middle, and then the landowner to the middle from the other side.
How weird.
In some places where the river is officially main river, then Environment Agency will have access.
Right.
Along the bank top or up the river.
Yeah.
But they don't own it.
It's interesting.
I think access is a tricky one with rivers.
Mm.
And there are some of our rivers which don't really have any access. I mean, it's not clear whether you should be kayaking up it, but you certainly can't access the banks from the side for miles because it's all on private land.
Right, yeah. So how do you monitor those places? Do you just not?
Well, you call the landowner and ask them
yeah.
and arrange access. That's the only way you can do it.
Yeah, and I guess some landowners will just say no because they don't want to be held to account. Would that be true?
That's true. I think a lot of landowners are becoming more interested in what's going on their land that's not the farming, and interested in the river, interested in what they can do, and opportunities to work with people who would give them information.
Yeah,
but there's a danger because conservationists have had a bad history of trying to point the finger at the farmers.
Yeah.
They've got reason to go, I'm not sure I want you to do this. What's the downside? Are you going to then tell me I'm bad?
Yes, you're going to turn around and, tell me I'm doing it wrong or, tell me.
It is actually, this is a hope for farm clusters, which are brilliant things, is getting farmers working together, and maybe through that route we can build a bit more trust with farmers and work with the whole cluster and when some of them are interested and we start with them, we could then maybe interest some of their neighbours as well.
Yeah, and they can advocate for us, I guess.
It helps if you build a relationship with one landowner and then they can kind of recommend you to their neighbours.
Yeah,
that's really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a lot of the work, which is like the wider countryside, isn't it, of the stuff that the Wildlife Trust does? Because I think the conservation, like working on nature reserves, is quite visible because people can go to a nature reserve and they can visit it. But often the work that like you were doing and other teams, you know, across the whole of the 3 counties in the wider countryside can be a bit more invisible.
I think you can, yeah. And if you want to know about the health of a river, there's a lot of landowners you need to involve.
Yes.
People you need to talk to, and there's groups of local people, and there's, you know, many stakeholders.
Yeah. So it is really vital work, isn't it? Out in the wider countryside, getting people together, building communities of people that care about wildlife. That's the idea, isn't it?
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Brilliant. If somebody, I've just asked this question to someone else as well, but I think it's an important thing is that a lot of people feel a lot of outrage about what's going on with our rivers one way or another, or a lot of concern. I think a lot of people feel disempowered because they feel like a river it's such a big problem that you feel like, you know, what can I possibly do about over abstraction or, you know, pollution that you know. But what are some things that people can do? What are some small steps that people can take if they're walking alongside their river and they're thinking, I just want to do something?
Well, that's a big question.
It is.
There's lots of things that people can do, I suppose. I mean, for a very local level, just monitoring your own bit of river, understanding it, learning how it behaves, what's there. But then also, you know, one of the things the Catchment Partnership is trying to do is bring all that together. So everybody is doing maybe a little bit in lots of places, but overall we're a whole river, and we can start to link those people together and link those things together and become something bigger. So from like personal level, you might think about what your water use or what you're putting down your drain or all of this kind of stuff, you know, how your personal actions impacting the river. But also it's good to understand how's the river working, what does the river need, and what's happening upstream of you, what's happening downstream of you. And then when you start linking people together, then you become part of something that does have a bit more power.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, and rivers are amazing things. I mean, some of what you do is water vole monitoring as well, isn't it? And, you know, we think about a river as what's in the river, but also about what uses the river. And really, there's just a vast array of wildlife, isn't there? I mean, they can be quite inspirational places just to sit alongside and observe.
I think everyone loves to walk along a river or next to a river. Yeah, water voles, kingfishers. Yeah, I love seeing kingfishers, and they're now I think having a bit of a comeback in some places.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Common.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is amazing.
There's that link between the river and the land. So waterfalls, you will find them by the river, but the conditions on the top of the bank often will be able to guide you to where to find the waterfalls at the bottom of the bank.
Like what? What are you looking for?
So, for example, if it's arable and you've got a really nice grass margin which is really dense and tussocky, then that's where the waterfalls would be. They'll be in the river there. They won't necessarily be in the next field along where the margin's quite narrow or thin.
Yes, I see. Yeah. So I love like all the stuff about kind of what you're looking, because when you're monitoring waterfalls, you don't really often see the voles themselves, do you? They're relatively elusive. So you're looking for all kinds of things, that tracks and signs that they leave, aren't you? I mean, what are you looking for then when you're looking for waterfalls?
You do start getting some bits of bank which just look really watervole-y. I think they're like, in terms of engineers, they are engineered like mini beavers. You know, they tend to change the bank because of the way they use it and the way they like places they like to sit. They do slightly change the shape of the bank, and you could see that in.
Wow.
But you're actually looking for real signs, mostly droppings or latrines, and also feeding piles of where they've been eating and leaving cut bits of vegetation.
Yeah, so they leave.
Quite often from a distance, you can just see the bit of bank where the waterfalls are going to be.
I see, yeah. So you get your eye in and just think, oh, that's a watervole thing. Because I'm not sure I've ever seen one. I've definitely heard the plop, the famous plop.
Yeah.
I've definitely heard that.
Oh, maybe you'll see one soon.
Yeah, maybe. Well, thank you so much for having us on this. You know, it's been really wonderful to spend a bit of time with you by this river on this idyllic spring day.
Lovely, hasn't it?
It has.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Rained on by blossom and the sunshine, and orange tips flying by.
Yeah.
And warblers shouting at us. I mean, it's been very beautiful. Yeah, and it's been really interesting to learn more about what you do and what people can do about rivers. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
thank you so much to Ruth, Gillian and Clara for their time and testimonials, and for giving us a glimpse into what it is about chalk streams that makes them so special and worthy of our care. Working on a habitat that stretches so far through the countryside and connects so many people and walks of life is, I'm sure you can appreciate, a hugely complex undertaking, and it is up to all of us to help in any way we can. For more information about the work we do and to explore ways in which you can help, including via the Cam Catchment Partnership that Ruth mentions, head over to our website at wildlifebcn.org/podcast, where there's a blog post all about this episode and plenty of onward links. Huge additional thanks to my colleagues Holly Wilkinson and Sarah Middleton for their help with the recording of this episode, and to James Williams and Jared Wentwick for the podcast music, and to you for listening all the way to the end. A rare thing indeed. Cheerio!